Since we're looking at this as an API first approach or as an API as a first class citizen, what are the characteristics of a good API?
All right. So for me, first, an API need to be intuitive, meaning that when you're looking at the specs of the API, you can look at an operation and you understand instantly, okay, that operation is going to create a contact record. And there should be no surprise, meaning that the operation does what it does. If you are creating a contact record with an operation, it should not update anything or have side effects. It should be very intuitive. The second thing that I think it's important, it's for your API to be familiar, meaning that don't try to innovate too much with it. Follow the standards, for example, RESTful standards. So when developers are using your API, they're already familiar with the way it works and the way it's organized. So it makes it easier for everyone. Also, it should be testable. So you should provide way to be able to test the API in different stages other than production. As much as possible, it should be stateless. So meaning that if you do request to the API, the same request to the API should get you the same answer. Mm-hmm. You should have good error reporting, meaning that when things went wrong, you should have an easy way to know why. So it should have clear error report with it. Mm-hmm. And the last thing that's also very important for people to discover your API is that should have really good documentation. So the entire spec of the API should be well documented.
All right, so David, now that we know these characteristics of what a good API is, we can probably implement a good API strategy. So how does a good API strategy improve application integration?
Well, application integration can take many forms. So, these days, with the proliferation of RESTful APIs, it's often consuming APIs themselves in application integration, but often it's not. Often you're integrating data files, which are written to disk, or it might be databases, or it could be content sent through an email, or a different form of transport, FTP, or even chat. So application integration takes many forms. The API contract is a nice way to facilitate application integration, because once you've done an integration, if you can wrap that integration up in an API, then you now have a contract on how to initiate that integration. Mm-hmm. So it becomes reusable, and it becomes discoverable, and it becomes something which you can embed in other integrations or services or workflows. Mm-hmm. And so, whereas an integration itself can become part of a monolithic application design, or integration itself or workflow, and it can just grow and grow and grow and become a monster in itself if it's allowed to. By wrapping it up in an API, you've actually created a service out of that integration. Okay. And that service is isolated. You know how to talk to it, you know what response you're going to get from it, and you can embed it in other integrations. It also means that you can change those other integrations knowing what impact it's going to have on its dependencies, because they're all contracts through APIs. Mm-hmm. So that integration itself can change, and you know what impact you're going to have on other services consuming it if you change the API. So long as you don't change the API, then you know you're not going to have any impact on it. But you might change to a different database behind that integration, for example. You migrate from a small database to a large clustered solution, different vendor, different brand. You might have incorporate message queues and the like, because your system requirements have grown significantly. Mm-hmm. You can do all of that behind your integration when you've exposed it as an API, because you're not changing the API. People interacting with the integration are still doing the same way. Just your implementation of it has changed.
All right. So we have listeners in this podcast world who are all handling the business side of the organization. How does the API first design approach benefit their enterprise or operations in the long run?
How does it